to my audience. This is the Reverie Roundtable, which we do Mondays at 8 p.m. Eastern or wherever the fuck. Thanks for being here. We have clearly an excellent group of individuals that have come to join us. I'm going to go around. I'm going to introduce them, and we'll get started on the topic, I guess. So I will start with Top Dolphin. Top Dolphin, a clear agitator. Thank you for being here. Tell the world about yourself.
Yeah, I'm an agitator sometimes, but it's all fun and games. I love y'all. You guys are all great. You can find me at twitch.tv/topdolphin. I don't want to go too long because we wasted a lot of time on Pokemon topics. But yeah, thanks for having me here, Prime. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. All right, and thank you for being thoughtful like that. Half Baked Takes is back with us. The first time they joined was last week. We're very happy to have them. They're here again with us. Tell a little about yourself a little bit.
Thank you, man, for having me back. I'll keep it short and sweet. I'm just starting to stream and do online politics shit, so find me at Half Baked Takes on Twitch and YouTube.
Thank you. Next, GSU Gambit. Gambit's back with us. Gambit, thank you for coming through on being part of all of this. Gambit, tell a little about yourself.
Yeah, so I think I made two bad mistakes so far today. One mistake was assuming that Andre and Bam thought the same thing, and that's not a good thing to group them together, knowing that they have radically different presuppositions. But second is possibly because this is the Reverie and not ABE, there's a different audience watching, so I shouldn't engage with Bam the same way as I would on All Black Everything. So Bam, I'm sorry. But yeah, so I am GSU Gambit. I'm actually starting to have one-on-one conversations because a lot of people only see me on panels. It's going to be called Conversations with Gambit. I had a 3-hour conversation with a guy that is bisexual about something that happened on All Black Everything panel. That'll be up on my YouTube shortly. I'll put links to my YouTube and my channel. You'll be able to hit pound YouTube. But yeah, if you want to have a one-on-one conversation with me about something you think is controversial, let me know and we can set it up.
So much, yeah, everyone check him out. He's a great guy. All right, next, Black American Made.
As you see, people.
This is what happens when you start with your dog shit Digimon takes. Go ahead.
As you see, people, I make this all work. This is where I throw in the sticks and they start the fire. But no, actually, yeah, this is I'm Black American Made. I'm on YouTube and Twitch sometimes, and on here a lot, and I fight with people and give good takes. That's it.
Okay, anyway, Doobie, thanks for coming through. Thanks for being a part of this, our Dark Lord and Savior. Doobie, tell a little about yourself.
Yeah, I'm Doobie. I help run the politics server on Discord, discord.gg/politics. Everything Bam said is wrong.
All right. Okay, all right, starting things off right. Oh, hello, Bam's girlfriend again. All right. Next, let's see. My man, Sneaky the Baby. Oh, so happy to have him here. I haven't had him here in a long time. How are you doing, buddy?
I'm very good, Prime. Thank you for having me. I've said this many times, right? I'm keeping to it. I don't do intros anymore, okay? I'm enigmatic, right? If you're part of the elite group that knows, then you know, all right? And if you don't know, well, you don't know, all right? Stay and find out.
Okay, all right, fair enough. All right, next we have 4 Andre. Oh my God, this is amazing, right? Like standing applause from someone. I'm not gonna stand up, but like applause at the very least. Thank you for being here, buddy. Like I've been trying to get this man on for like a year plus.
I love this dude. Go. Should I jump in? Were you done?
Please go ahead.
No. Please tell them more about me. How great I am. I'm A for Andre. I don't do politics anymore, but I'll take time out of my busy schedule to hang out with a friend like Prime. And what a delight it is to see some other friends here. Sneaky Debate Spoon and Gambit, I love you. It's so cool to share this space with you. And I agree with whatever Bam says, not just previously, but going forward for the rest of the panel. You can I'm a piggyback on whatever he says. He seems cool as fuck. I vibe with this dude. I am currently 47.5 hours in. It was my birthday a couple days ago. I'm almost 48 hours into streaming. So stay with Prime all stream, but after Prime stream is over, if you want to come fuck with me, I've been live for about 48 hours, and I'm going to continue to be live until capitalism ends, I guess, and we're socialist and people stop giving me money.
I thought you were
A4Andre on
joking
Twitch.
about that when I rated you on.
47 and a half hours. We're getting close to 48.
Holy shit. Okay.
So if I say anything stupid, that's why.
All right. Well, thank you, buddy. All right. Next, we have Roadman. Roadman, thanks for coming through. Thanks for being a part of this. We really appreciate you. Tell a little about yourself.
Your boy Roadman, the man with the plan, the one who's gonna take your girl to an island. He's got pallets of cash like Obama and Iran. Now listen, I'm Roadman. I'm here to give you the takes. I'm here to debate. You know, you can check me out on Twitch. I've been streaming constantly now. I've been going hard at it. I've been grinding. My wife said I'm allowed to go for it. We're doing it. We're going full time, baby. I've been having interviews with my family. I've been getting deep. I've been having a grand old time. I appreciate you, Prime. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. And I didn't get to say it just before, but happy birthday, Andre. I didn't
sure.
I was focused on the like the 48-hour part, but like
how
the
old,
birthday
how old
parts.
do I look?
Are we gonna do it?
If you had to guess,
Are we gonna do it, Prime?
If you had to guess, how old, Prime?
We'll
Say
do
something.
it. We'll do it later. We will do it later. I promise.
Okay.
38.
That's not young, bro. Young. Somebody guess young. 30 again. I'm like very 30.
Okay, I'm not gonna say it. But let's go.
God damn, you're old as fuck.
38.
You're pretty fucking old too, Doobie, right? Like you're pretty.
Look, I'm 33, but I'm like a young 33.
You're
Okay,
pretty
fuck
fucking
you guys.
ancient, I think. All right, let's move. Let's get. I'm moving. All right. First topic. After Neil Young decided to take his music off of Spotify, the company has been relentlessly criticized for its apparent double standard treatment when it comes to the COVID misinformation. The platform seemingly lets Joe Rogan, the biggest podcast in the world, say anything he likes on their app, while making small attempts to regulate others. Do you think the complaints against Spotify are fair? Should companies be expected to interfere with their biggest moneymakers? Should the onus instead be on listeners to tune out? All right. Yeah, you guys know what we're talking about. Joe Rogan and this whole thing. Joe Rogan... it seems to be costing them a little bit of money, but still gaining them a lot of money, right? Seems to be the biggest money maker, right? Like, and they paid, from my understanding, $100 million for his contract, right? So they seem to think he's a big money maker. But the rules seem to be a bit different for him. So do you think that's fair? And should that be expected of a company? All right. Quickly, we're going to go through all y'all for opening statements. All right. So make it snappy. All right. Top Dolphin.
I don't know how I feel about this, but I think my instinct is like, it seems kind of silly to be like, Spotify, why don't you cancel Joe Rogan? I would say I'm not like super informed on this, but like if they're like penalizing some people and not others, like that seems a little hypocritical. But at the end of the day, like if people don't go watch Joe Rogan on Spotify, they're gonna go listen at like 100 other places. Like Spotify taking this down isn't gonna stop people from hearing Joe Rogan spout bullshit about stuff he doesn't know about. And I don't think it's like necessarily Spotify's responsibility to like moderate their platform in that form, unless it's like a goal that they have.
It takes.
Yeah, a lot like what Top Dolphin said. I don't really understand how it is Spotify's responsibility to, police the people that are on its platform. They allow rappers and musicians to constantly say way worse shit and to advocate for way worse ideas on their platform constantly. And also, Joe Rogan gets 11 million fucking views per episode. If they lose Neil Young and a couple other a couple other artists that don't bring in nearly the amount of revenue that Joe Rogan does, then I don't think it matters.
Okay, yes, you can.
Yeah, so when I first heard Neil Young was telling them that they need to take down Joe Rogan or he's going to take his music off, I was like, damn, I've never heard of this guy. And then I looked up and I saw he was born in 1945. And it was obvious that he just wanted to be relevant again. This guy's a no one right now. And probably will continue to be that way unless cancel culture embraces him. But yeah, I think one thing that Half Baked talked about is the fact that Joe Rogan gets 11 million views per episode. And there's a graphic that y'all have probably all seen on Twitter where like a collection of all of mainstream media gets about like 17 point something views per episode. So the reason why the mainstream media wants to attack Joe Rogan is because people don't listen to them and they watch Joe Rogan, so they want that viewership. That's what this is completely about. I don't think there's anything particularly bad about Joe Rogan. I think he brings on people who are experts in their field, and they might have takes that are against the mainstream. They might even, some of them might not be correct. So I think that people who think that they have more knowledge should go on shows or create their own platform to argue their views. But yeah, we're talking open.
Okay, thank you. I forgot to change the stream banner. I put a Pokemon in blackface. If you don't know what we're talking about, then it should end up on our YouTube as well. So that's another thing you should check out. If you're just watching this video, then watch that other one to understand what the hell that banner was about. Okay, moving on. Let's go to Bam.
Yeah, Joe Rogan is irresponsible, but like barely irresponsible. He's irresponsible in the way that I would be irresponsible if I had this level of platform. Like, he's not an expert on things. He's a dude who likes talking about things, and he doesn't seem to have like a super strong agenda on anything outside of weed. He is bigger than everyone else, and he probably should be treated differently as a part of their platform based on that. To some degree, as controversial as that sounds. Yeah, that's all I got right now.
Doobie.
I think I'm pretty torn about it, actually. I could go either way. But I'm like on the fence, but if I were to fall on either side of the fence, it'd be like very far down one side or the other. Because I think that we can't really treat him like just like another random ass YouTuber, right? He's getting 11 million followers per view or per stream or whatever the fuck. The one that he did with his doctor was like 40 million views.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And given that the shit that they're talking about has real life consequences, could lead to real people really dying or killing other people because they're getting infected with COVID because they're not getting the fucking vaccine. Right? I don't think it makes sense to just, write it off as a free speech thing and, kind of say, oh, well, we shouldn't be pushing these platforms to like be responsible with who they're having on their platforms. I don't think it's as simple as that. But I'm not sure I'd go as far as like removing him from the platform, right? Because Spotify has taken some steps. They're linking. It seems like they're going to be linking people who watch his streams where he has vaccine people on or anti-vax people on. They're going to be linking them to their COVID-19 hub, right? So they can get like actual information about it. I don't know if that's good enough. It seems a lot like the Twitter thing where they're like, oh, well, this tweet has been flagged for misinformation, yada yada. But I don't know. I'm kind of torn about it. So yeah, that's where I am right now.
Sneaky.
Oh fuck, did I?
You're good.
You're good. You're good.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think people say like, oh, this is unfair. Like, the one standard for Joe Rogan and the other standard for other people. I don't think it's unfair. I don't think it's even hypocritical, right? Like, I think you just people fundamentally don't understand the values of a company. The values of our company are stonks, mate. Stonks. Red line go up. Red line go up, all right? I don't care if the world is on fire. It just has to be like slightly less on fire than than like will cause red line go down, okay? Because I don't want red line go down. I want red line go up. I want stonks, okay? So they don't give a fuck. We don't give a fuck, and we as a people, we don't fucking hold our companies accountable for just being shitlords. We don't do it. We don't fucking care, right? We're like, yeah, cheap clothes, I fucking love that, man. Cheap food, fucking love that, man. Fucking dumb shit on the radio, on the TV, fucking brilliant. Don't give a fuck if there's like child slaves producing it, and right, this is all like based on a system of exploitation. Don't give a fuck about that, mate. Red line go up, my life good. Love it, mate. Love it. That's great. That's all I need, right? So Joe Rogan, like, is this unfair? Is this hypocritical? Should Spotify be penalized for this? Well, yeah, but like we just don't live in that system. We just absolutely don't live in that fucking system. We don't hold the companies accountable. We don't even care, right? We'd literally rather have the niceties provided by these companies being shitters. So Like, if you want Joe Rogan to be held accountable, if you don't want this like COVID misinformation being spreading, yeah, we have to hold these companies accountable. And do you know what that's going to mean? It's going to mean your life is going to, you personally, you as an individual, your life is going to be worse because you don't get the benefits of other people's denigration. Because that's how these companies function. That's the principle of all of this, right? Maximize profits. How do they maximize profits, right? By fucking other people over. So no, it's not hypocritical, not even slightly. There's a massive misunderstanding.
A for Andre.
Yeah, I mean, it sucks because I think the conclusion of my point probably leads into Sneaky Debate Spoon's point. But like, yeah, it is hypocritical, and I think it's probably, I don't know. It happens on this platform as well. The larger the content creator, the more leeway they have, the more. But I think it probably ought be the reverse. I think the larger the platform, the more scrutinous that we should view the content, and the greater the lens or microscope we view it. I won't talk too much longer, but I think Joe Rogan should be under heavy scrutiny if the platform is going to scrutinize content creators. Do I think Spotify ought do this? No. I guess I'm like, again, leaning into the Pokemon hyper capitalism salesman part of this is like, I think Spotify should probably make stonks go up and let people create podcasts in whatever way, but then they have to do this for all of their content creators. They can't give Jogan, they can't give this dude the freedom to like just make up shit about COVID and then scrutinize other creators. They ought, I guess, let people have free reign until it runs into like blackface. I don't know. That's my point, I guess.
Roman.
So I'm coming at it as I've listened to Joe Rogan since 2011. I've listened to a bunch of his podcasts. I've been in a green room with Joe Rogan. I've hung out with him. It's been a whole cool thing. I think he's a good guy. I think he has a good podcast. What I don't understand is how people want to like silence Joe Rogan because of he's having a conversation, and you guys talk about misinformation, and you say, you know, he's misinforming the public on vaccines, and that's fine. But who decides what misinformation is? That's a huge topic we can get into later. But my whole argument is like, if Joe Rogan is having people on that are controversial, he's a comedian. Like, if you're getting your facts from a comedy podcast, like, that's on you, dog. We need to hold our society to a higher standard, that you need to find your own information and you need to have critical thinking skills. But yeah, we'll get into it in the open.
Okay, we're in the open.
I think
People don't
facts
want to do
decide
People don't want to do that.
misinformation is. Like, first of all, like, I don't, now that I see where people at, I want to like come down a little bit harder. Like, Joe Rogan does have a large platform, and he does have a level of responsibility to his viewers. That's irrefutable. I didn't think that we were gonna go that far, but like, I was leaning more into the concept of should he be treated differently? And like I said, because he's the biggest, to some degree, yes. You don't block your largest creator over something small. Like, he probably has some connections and some level of contracts, you know, that everyone else doesn't have. He probably does have a little bit more leeway in that direction, but he also is under a bigger microscope, and that's true of all platforms. Like, whenever you first, you know, when you have a little nobody who's watching your platform, you can probably do a lot of stuff without getting banned. That kind of goes away once you get bigger. So,
like you said, like we need to engage with this responsibly, and we need to think critically about the information we're seeing. The fact of the matter is, people just don't want to fucking do that, man. People don't want to fucking do that, man. People don't want to listen to the Joe Rogan podcast, have this fucking dude spout off a bunch of anti-vax shit, and then go, maybe I should read the opposing arguments and get into the literature about this. They don't fucking do that, man. They go, yes, science, man. Science, man.
I have a question.
Science,
Before we start getting into this. How many people here actually have listened to the Joe Rogan podcast?
Oh, I heard snippets. I think everybody's heard snippets.
Yeah,
They've heard.
Are
you saying that? Are you talking about
specifically the vaccine one, or like any?
Do you want to talk about the vaccine, the Robert Malone? We're talking about the Robert Malone podcast, correct?
and the other, he had two other doctors and Sanjay Gupta.
Regardless, right? This could be about any piece of media, right? The point is, people simply do not want to engage with media critically. They do not want to read the opposing arguments. What they want is to be presented things that are palatable to them, right? And it just so happens that like people being fucking stupid and fucking about is entertaining and palatable. They enjoy that mode of information, right? That's why streaming is popular. That's why podcasts.
Then what's the point of policing? Then what's the point of policing this shit then?
Yeah.
If people are just stupid and they're just gonna fucking believe whatever the fuck they hear from some guy down at the corner, then why do we care about who do we police?
Well, that's what I mean. As a society, that needs to change, right? So the idea that like, oh, we need to engage responsibly or anything like that is just not going to happen for the way our society is constructed, right? We're like even in this age, like for example, like TikTok, we learn to take in information in like 10-second bites, right? You see it on Snapchat, you get a 10-second piece, an image. You TikTok, you get a 30-second clip on Twitter. How many of you sit down and watch a 30-minute video on Twitter, right? You watch a 2-minute video. And like
our
even
politicians
news articles,
argue
right?
in
How
9
long does
different
it take you?
squares on CNN for 5 seconds.
Yeah, how many
Like, this
people
is laughable.
how many people fucking watch this shit? Nobody fucking watches that, right? Like Prime Minister's Question Time in England. Nobody fucking watches that. You just watch the fucking highlights.
Yeah,
right?
but isn't that the beauty of Joe
11
Rogan? Because
million
he does like
people
a
listen to Joe
3-hour. He always
Yeah,
does like
exactly.
these very long sit down, get everything fucking out onto the table and parse through the bullshit. Isn't that his whole shtick?
Also,
Yeah, so
I
Joe-
think Joe's not even like. I think some things he says is like slightly incorrect, but Joe's not a full anti-vaxxer. It's not like he just makes
Yes, I know,
stuff up.
No,
like,
yeah, exactly.
If you actually watch them, but
Well, it depends
he's-
on who gets to define anti-vax.
yeah,
There are
even
some
then,
people
right?
that are like completely idiotic, and they just say everybody's anti-vax if you're not, whatever the most
even-
pro position is.
Even then, assuming that you can come to any sort of a reasonable conclusion about vaccines with a 3-hour podcast is fucking ridiculous, right? You are not an expert in virology from listening to Joe Rogan's podcast, from
Nobody says
doing
that.
your
Nobody
own
said
research.
you. Nobody
I
said
know, I
you,
know,
the
but-
listener, is going to be an expert.
You just
I
straw
know,
man
I
We're
know,
over.
talking
You
about
just
I
who
know,
ruined-
he
I know,
platforms, and he
yes,
is
I know.
platforming experts. Just because
Yes.
you don't agree with what that expert is saying doesn't mean
I'm not
he's
talking
not
about. I'm not
platforming an
talking about
expert.
whether I agree with them or not. I'm talking about people's takeaway of this, right? People feel as if they have been informed by this content, right? And this influences their decisions.
You don't
And
think?
that really is not informative at all, right?
What-
It
what-
doesn't actually help them. They
what
don't have
did-
the tools to make
Yes,
these decisions.
Sneaky has the only content that you should take away information from. This is so dumb.
No,
like,
I'm
yes,
not saying
people
that. Right?
take
It's
away
like,
information
what I'm
from
pointing out
things
here is
all
like
over.
what I'm pointing out here is like the Dunning-Kruger effect, right? So like in order to understand that you are incapable of processing this information, you have to be somewhat intelligent, right?
You
You have to know a
You
certain
don't
amount
have
of
to process
in order
all
to
the
understand.
information to come to.
Whether or not I agree with
decision.
that, would you agree that we should just not have that? He should just not have those conversations then? Because like the whole point of this conversation is basically, should he have these conversations? And you're saying, well, you're not going to become an expert by listening to this conversation. So I'm just confused on what your point is there.
My point is that it's not Joe Rogan's podcast or whether he should or not be able to do this podcast, right? It is media in general and how we engage with media in general, right? And as the system is currently set up, we are incapable of engaging with it otherwise, right?
Yeah, so the CDC shouldn't put out information either, right? Because you're incapable of grasping all
Yeah,
of it.
thank
Wait,
you, Jay.
CDC
Thank
This
you.
is silly.
Why
Why do we let
should
people
any?
say
Why
this
would
stuff?
why does
any
Gambit jump to like bad
authorities-
This is
conclusions?
so dumb.
Well, no, he's saying. Are you saying
He's saying a
it
bunch of
has
dumb
to
stuff.
be an expert? I'm just confused. He's saying the people that are intaking the information aren't going to fully understand it, so therefore, we shouldn't have those conversations, at least until we progress society into a way that we do process information that way.
So the
Well, I think he was just saying like this is. I think it was a response to Roadman's initial take that like people have a personal responsibility to parse through data and information. He's saying that that's just not how we seem to work. Like that can't be an expectation we place on individuals.
Okay. Yeah, I
Which
must
I
say
actually agree with that.
that
So
was
that's
where
not who do we?
a little bit of
We
a
can't
disconnect
consume
there.
media from anyone
Right, so
because
so
we
here's-
won't have we won't understand the totality of the data in front of us.
I'm just
So
saying
we'll
you
be
can't put
making
that expectation on
uninformed
society as a whole.
This may sound like quite scary to a lot of people, but it's in fact how society works in many facets. But a lot of the time, you don't need to understand how something works just to abide by it and for it to be in your best interests. Okay? For example, the CDC, they don't put out, like, the recommendations they don't give out that, like, right, this is how the spike protein works, and this is how the virus replicates, and this is the specific amino acid, the DNA structure of the blah, blah, blah. They don't do all that shit. They say, put a fucking mask on, stay indoors if you can, take the vaccine, right? And these are the things that you need to hear, right? And I understand that sounds scary, like, oh, you're keeping the information in the dark. Yeah, I'm not keeping the information in the dark. I'm simply acknowledging that I, as an individual, and most people as an individual, do not have the tools necessary to process that information, right? And what is probably best for people is just to hear, like, right, this is the outcome we've decided, right? And you just have to have some faith in some
It's
institutions.
the most authoritarian, dumb
I-
thing.
I-
Yeah,
I-
yeah,
I-
yeah,
you
yeah,
know-
like,
No, no, no,
you
no. That's
are
a
you
great
saying-
Hold on. Let
Hold
y'all
on.
say dumb stuff this whole time. This is the
Dumb
same
stuff.
sneaky debate man who 6 months ago was talking about the danger of big pharma and how these big companies do all of this, and now he's saying no, you should just blindly trust them no matter what. You shouldn't be able to have access to the data because you're too dumb to understand it. No,
It's not
the
what
problem
he's
is
saying at
sneaky.
all.
Maybe you're too dumb.
Andre,
Maybe you're too dumb.
Andre,
Most
give it a
people are,
try.
though.
Andre, give it a try. We got a little bit of time. We got to get more people in. Andre.
Yeah. I'm gonna hop in because I definitely don't think this is his point. And like my king and my god and like the authoritarian in my life is Joe Rogan, and he had a stand-up special where he did this bit about a cell phone. I don't know if you're familiar with it. He said, if you put me on an island, how long would it take? If civilization ended, how long would it take for me to recreate this cell phone? Gambit and I could not. You put us on an island, we're not making cell phones. Probably. Maybe that's presumptuous. What that shows is that there are technologies out there that are beyond my comprehension. Although I am brilliant and I understand the gist of a cell phone and I get to varying degrees how shit works, I don't know, and I cannot be an expert on most of these things. So I should probably do my best to ingest information that is from experts, but I may not even have the time for this. So I mean, like, then I weigh like whose opinion is perhaps more informed. If mine can't be informed on all topics, whose is more informed? Perhaps people who work for the Centers for Disease Control, or Joe Rogan, who's like the Fear Factor mixed martial arts guy. And to the point of like, should Joe Rogan have these conversations? Sure, I guess. I don't know. The point is not should he or should he not have these conversations. I guess it was more of like Spotify and like platforming and restrictions. But yeah, I mean, like, we don't know how things work. Largely, we should trust authorities on these things. And to what Gambit's getting at is like, how do we decide who are the authorities and should we listen to Bro Jogan or like Dr. Fauci? I mean, I would guess I trust accredited universities where people study these things, as opposed to like Joe Rogan bringing on.
Those are the people that come on his podcast. Those are the
No,
accredited
not
people
always. Not
go
always.
to the most
Sometimes.
premier institutions that go on his show.
Yeah,
Sometimes
like
they are.
he's bringing
No,
people
all
on that
the
are
time, every
experts.
time.
All the time?
No, that's not true.
All the time?
Like,
They're
Joe,
experts?
Joe Rogan
On-
Joe Rogan specifically brings on people with fringe positions because it drives more content. Right? It's better for the algorithm, right? If
No,
that
or
expert
he-
is lucky-
no, no, no,
He
no, no,
just
no, no,
talks
no,
to
no,
people on
no,
both
no,
sides.
hold on.
Listen.
Or he just talks to
If this-
people on
if-
both sides.
If this person is largely
It's silly.
disagreed with, right, or they have a controversial opinion, do you know what? People are more likely
Right,
to listen to that
nobody
because it's
else
interesting. It drives content, right? It's good for the algorithm,
Okay.
right? Joe Rogan specifically brings on experts with fringe positions.
Is it important
Yeah,
for him to
look
bring
at
on
the
people?
most qualified person.
Look at the mainstream media right now. They don't have any real conversations. You go on CNN.com right now. They're still talking about fucking January 6th. They're still talking about Trump, like, oh, what did he do during this thing? Like, nobody wants to hear about that shit anymore. And that's why people are going to Joe Rogan. That's why people are going to even streams like this on this Twitch stream. Like, they're going to alternative media to find facts because they're not getting they're not getting like real information from these mainstream media companies. They're going and searching out in different ways. So Joe Rogan having a conversation with Robert Malone, you're never going to have that conversation on CNN because they have sponsors. They have Pfizer as a fucking...
No.
Go ahead.
So they do have places where they can actually get correct information, right? As a society, humanity has established institutions that take care of these things. That's what the CDC is. That's why it exists, right? The problem is people have lost all
so
faith in these
people
institutions.
have retired. People have
People have
resigned
lost
from the
all faith.
CDC. People are resigning from the CDC,
Yes.
but it's not in the media because
People have
all,
lost all faith in these institutions, right? When the CDC says this is in your best interest, we're the institution designed by humanity to deal with this exact thing. People have
The
lost faith in that.
Do you think
And
it's going to improve the reputation of the institution by saying like, no, you can't listen to other authorities or not authorities, but you can't listen to other voices.
I'm not saying you can't listen to other voices. I'm saying as an individual, you must understand that sometimes you're too stupid to understand, right? It's the Dunning-Kruger effect.
While I largely agree with Sneaky Debate Man, I'd love to hand it off to some folks who haven't chatted yet. I think it's like kind of silly to be like, well, get your information here, get your information there. I'm like, if you want to get like great information, I would recommend twitch.tv/PrimeCayes or maybe A for Andre. But like, we are not the authorities on all of these topics, so perhaps there are better places to absorb this information from. And to the point of like we should be hearing like both sides of a lot of arguments. It's like, sure, like when it comes to the topic of the flat Earth, do you want to hear both sides? Do you think it's important that we platform people who think the Earth is flat, or perhaps no. Let me finish. Perhaps there is a scientific consensus that is a bit more like genuine and informed on these things, and we should platform those. And Roadman, I think you're killing the conversation today, but I'd kill to hear from like Bam or Dolphin or Dobby.
There's a difference between saying that we should always have to listen to both sides and saying that one side shouldn't be able to exist because we're too stupid to have ideas. Those are two different arguments. Nobody is saying that you have to go listen to Dr. Robert Malone or all the other people. Nobody's saying you have to go listen to them.
Yeah.
The conversation is if those people want to go on podcasts and express their views, there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, I think there is a. I'm sorry, it's Dobby or Doobie. I'm sorry if I fucked that up. I think
Dobby.
I think it can be. I think it can be.
It's Doobie. Thank you.
Doobie, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry, dude. I didn't mean to disrespect.
I forgive you.
Okay. I think if we use the flat Earth analogy again, I think the like growing number of people who believe the Earth is flat is a good like sort of indicator that like not all ideas need to be platformed. And these like YouTube series that have gone viral and people that believe these things is like quite literally evidence that like we should not spread bad ideas. It's like quite obvious that you know.
Okay, but
hold on. Let me finish. I'm sorry.
Flat Earth is a completely different thing.
Kind of. They're both like sort of anti-science, but like I think the growth of this idea and the spread of this idea proves Debateman's point, which I hope he'll let other people jump in on, that we're not really qualified to like absorb these ideas, right? Like people watch these YouTube videos and are like convinced. They buy the T-shirts and the books and the hats, and they think the Earth is flat, and they think that vaccines give you autism, and I think maybe the general population is not ready to handle these ideas in a responsible way.
That's
And
not
even
what
myself
Roman, just bite the bullet. Just bite the bullet and say that, yeah, flat earthers should also be allowed to put their fucking stupid videos up on YouTube because the price of
Everybody has
free
said
speech is, you know, dumbass ideas get, you know, spread out.
No, everybody has said that.
Here's my problem. Here's my problem with what you're saying, Andre, is you are just basically putting us all into a group like, oh, you're anti-vaccine, oh, you're flat earth, you're this, that, you're a conspiracy theorist. All of a sudden, you've labeled me as some fucking nutcase who believes all this stupid misinformation. And that's what happens. But that's what happens is that you get labeled as this crazy person when you have a differing view from what the mainstream view is. All of a sudden, you get lumped into this group of people who are like crazy people.
No.
Hold on. Let me finish. So the whole Robert Malone thing, right? Did you listen to the podcast itself? Have you listened to the Robert Malone podcast?
No,
of course, no one else.
This is what I'm saying. This is what I'm fucking saying.
How could I know about a thing without listening to the podcast? I'm not even a real Joe Rogan fan. You got me.
Let me finish. You didn't even listen to the podcast. You're calling it misinformation. You're saying, oh, this is a misinformation thing, blah, blah, blah. Joe Rogan's this and that. Everybody who is like saying bullshit about this shit, they didn't even listen to the podcast. He brings up good points. He brings up shit about Pfizer. You're not even a real Joe Rogan fan. You're not even a real Joe Rogan fan. I've been listening to Joe Rogan since Fear Factor. I've been a Brazilian jiu-jitsu coach for over 10 years. I know Joe Rogan. I watched the podcast before it was available on YouTube and Spotify. I'm an OG, and that's why I know how stupid he and his guests are.
This fucking doctor guy references something like mass hysteria psychosis or something like that, and he's just literally made that up on the spot. There is nothing to back that up, and he says it was what happened in like Nazi Germany, God. Like how everybody convinced them that being a Nazi was good. He just made it up on the fucking spot. There's no writing on this. It's not accepted as like a condition or like any kind of like.
Do you not
thing
think
anyway? He just made it up.
The society we're living in right now is not an example of mass hysteria psychosis where look at the kids in schools.
It's not a real thing. It's just
Can I finish? These kids in schools,
these
kids in schools all have masks on. They're drawing pictures of themselves with masks. They don't understand emotions anymore. Now that the years have gone by, we're 3 years into this pandemic, and people are living this life. Like we're seeing the aspects of the way we're living right now and the way that the whole society has become. Like this is a deep topic and we can go on for 8 hours about this, but like I just like, bro, I feel like you're just calling it misinformation because someone told you it's misinformation, and you just proved it because you haven't even listened to the podcast. You haven't listened to the
podcast. I just referenced it.
I haven't even listened to it.
I'm talking about Andre.
But there's gotta be like there's gotta be some middle ground between these two things. I think there's there's a like there. There's not really a middle ground. Like the reality is, Joe Rogan is just a dude, and he tries his best, but he's not. He doesn't have the qualifications, and neither does anyone else in this conversation right now have the qualifications to like always parse through the specifics of data that like their view that people send to him, that the people on the show talk about. So because of that, like, and when we say people, I'm not even gonna call it like anti-vaxxer. I'm gonna say people who have like issues with vaccines or issues with this vaccine, the issue with this mandate. Like very few of them are coming from like, you know, off the top rope. Like they mix it in with a lot of like professionalism and a lot of jargon, and there's a lot of like, you know, there may be like 90% truth to it, and then they slip in a little bit of BS or a little bit of things that's not quite in the right context. But guess what? The average person, Joe Rogan himself included, doesn't really know how to like deal with that because they haven't seen that piece of information. It's not fair to expect that he's seen that information, but it happens.
I think it's silly to hold Joe Rogan to the same stance as like Bob, who works at McDonald's, right? To the same level, because
but he is. Bob
wait, no, he's not.
Regardless of whether
he's a person
who has more responsibility, but that's who he is.
You're about to argue with Bam Top.
True, I know.
But
yeah,
I think specialist.
No, he's not a specialist. You're correct. But Joe Rogan, when he platforms people, does have probably somewhat responsibility to like to do research on them, and maybe not himself, right?
We're saying he does have the ability to parse through their data.
Joe Rogan. Wait, hold on, because you're saying really stupid shit right now, Bam.
Not responsibility.
Because Joe Rogan. Wait, hold on. Because Joe Rogan himself doesn't need to be able to parse through this data. Joe Rogan has a lot of resources. His podcast is like the #1 most popular podcast in the world right now, I believe. Right?
What does that mean?
So
yeah, I don't know what it is.
What Joe Rogan can do, right? If he's going to specifically go to people who have different opinions than the mainstream opinion, right? The scientific consensus, right? Assuming that he's not just like some conspiracy theorist who wants to like stir shit up and he wants to have responsible conversation, he should probably have other people who have people who go through this data and understand this data and inform him on topics, right? And so that he can address some of the things that virologists might bring up, or so that he can like have these conversations instead of just being like, I'm the comedy dude. Hey, here's a bunch of vaccine misinformation.
No layman in the world could.
He's not a layman. Stop.
No, he is.
No.
Responsible. You're saying he has more responsibility, but Joe Rogan is a layman. Joe Rogan can't catch these things live. There's no amount of money and resources that can catch someone live saying something slightly that has some level of truth, but slightly.
Wait. Literally, if he wanted to, he could have an expert in his ear feeding him lines. Now, no, that's not his thing, but literally he could. To say that he has zero way of combating this in real time is just stupid. All right, not saying that he should, not saying that that's not like his whole brand and stuff like that, but like he can totally have like an earpiece in, have like a producer with like a virologist.
The video,
he's Joe Rogan. He can probably have the head of the CDC in his fucking ear telling him what's like going on.
No, he can't.
So this is the thing. Joe Rogan has experts in their fields on his podcast. I don't think he needs to have a team of people reviewing it. What he's asking these people is, why do you believe what do you believe, and where do you source the data from that gives you what you believe? After that, whoever they want can parse that, whether it's another expert or whether it's a layman. I'm gonna finish. And whoever wants to can parse that data and determine whether it's valid. And other experts that think that these people are wrong now have the resources to combat them. They can say, hey, this is not true because XYZ. The problem is a bunch of people have these stupid ideas that they don't think they need to push back. So those experts that y'all that don't create platforms or don't go on Joe Rogan, those are the real problems.
Wait, hold on. My problem is that he doesn't Hold on.
Yes, he does. He does. Sanjay Gupta and other people that went on there. He's not this guy that only platforms one side of a conversation.
It's not about one side, but I'm saying like the expertise isn't the #1 priority. It's also interesting people, which he admits himself. Like he's not like
these people are unknown.
But Joe Rogan is not going through like the local universities and like finding the number one.
Everyone that has
like,
been on his show,
people who have internet presences,
like,
people that are like interesting.
This is why y'all shouldn't talk about stuff you don't know about.
I watch Joe Rogan.
Everyone that's been on his show has a decorated career in what they're talking about.
Yes.
These aren't.
Jordan Peterson has a decorated career, but Jordan Peterson isn't in for being for being a therapist. Like Jordan Peterson is there because he's interesting. That's his priority.
Right.
The whole point is he's a controversial figure. That's the whole point.
When Jordan Peterson and Joe Rogan became befriended, it was before all of that fiasco. Yeah, like you're just talking out of your ass. You're just saying shit. We're just hoping something sticks.
The people he has on are specifically controversial figures. They're specifically people with fringe positions, and he does this because it drives content. It's not doing it.
To be clear,
because if you investigate the people he has on, like 80% of them.
The disconnect here is that one side is saying that largely who he brings on is like fringe opinions, and I don't know if I entirely agree with that. And then the other side is saying, the other side is saying that largely who he's bringing on is like decorated experts in their particular fields. I don't think any of these things are true. He just brings on whoever the fuck he wants. Sometimes they're comedians or mixed martial artists.
Name one person that's been on his pod. Hold on, Andre, I want you to back up your claim. Name one person that's been on his podcast. Name one. No, you're not letting me finish the question. First off, Jordan Peterson is very decorated in his field. The question I was about to ask you is, name one person that's talked about COVID on his platform without decades-long career fields in what they were talking about. Name one.
Sanjay Gupta. He's a neurologist, by the way, not a virologist.
Okay, cool. Thank you, and I appreciate that.
Jordan Peterson is a psychologist, not a fucking political scholar.
My point that I think that you have to concede to is when you say that everyone is a decorated expert, this isn't the truth. Everyone on the show that is not a decorated expert.
The shows that you all take problems with.
Fuck. Jesus, Gambit. Why does the Jesus Christ.
The dumb shit, man. It's
yeah, right. You call everything dumb. You call everything stupid. That
because that's what you do. You just attack scrum man. Y'all aren't attacking real points.
To your point, to insult Bam and call everything he says stupid. It doesn't make you more intellectual, bro. Give it a rest. My point is only that there are different guests on his show for different reasons. And I think largely he brings on people that garner audiences. I think his show is for entertainment. Sometimes it can be informative, and that's okay. But to suggest that it always is disingenuous. That's not the case.
Exactly. It just treat it as entertainment, though. People need to treat it as entertainment, and by deplatforming it, you're giving it legitimacy or saying that like it has no right to be used as information. People aren't looking at it for fucking their news or their information on COVID. It gets brought up because they have casual conversations, but I hope not. I hope most people aren't going to him for their fucking COVID news.
Don't think anybody here is for deplatforming.
This is contesting information, though, right? I asked this question earlier. Should the CDC having to be fighting Joe Rogan's podcast on what is the correct information? Should they actually be having to do that?
I think it's a price we pay for. It's a price we pay for freedom of speech.
Let's further that, right? So I'm okay with Joe Rogan having his podcast, having these dumb fucking guests on, right? Further, my biggest issue is that we have these massive corporations specifically pushing this and driving this for profit. Right, that's my biggest issue with this. Right, like I said, and this is not hypocritical of these companies at all. This is specific.
Pfizer's pushing their vaccine for profit. So
exactly.
Yo, hold on, Sneaky. What massive corporation? Who are you talking about? What massive
Pfizer is pushing their vaccine for profit.
Can we let Sneaky Debate Man answer the question?
Yeah, was I incorrect?
Sneaky, what gigantic corporation were you referencing just then?
Spotify, obviously.
So Spotify's pushing it. It's not the Joe Rogan show on Spotify. It's Spotify themselves are now enlisting Joe Rogan to fight COVID. That's what you think.
No. I'm not saying they enlist people to fight COVID. I'm saying Joe Rogan makes the money, and thus they push Joe Rogan's content, regardless of what that content is, because they don't care about that content as long as red line go up.
And Pfizer pushes the vaccine because they care about the red line go up, dude. Like
that might
shows
be true.
on CNN, shows on CNN, MSNBC, Fox are
I agree.
sponsored
I
by
agree.
Pfizer.
Yes, I agree.
But the government's paying for Pfizer. It's not like
Hold
individual
on.
people.
Hold on.
Like,
Pfizer, yes, is pushing their vaccine for profit. I completely agree with that. They're a pharmaceutical company. They want to be able to take their vaccine and the government to buy their vaccine to give to people because it makes them money, right? Just so happens that taking the vaccine and producing vaccines and having vaccines as a society is also in our interest. So yes, they are pushing it for profit, but their interests are my interests, so I'm okay with it in this instance. It is not in my interest to have Spotify pushing somebody who outright contests the institutions of man for money.
But hold on, can I
this
stop
is
you here?
bad for society.
Can I interject? So this is where I'm saying is that the people who are pushing the vaccine are going to label Joe Rogan as misinformation because they're pushing their vaccine. They want the red line to go up, like you say. So that's why they're labeling Joe Rogan as misinformation. So it's just muddying the waters. And this is why there's an argument.
I understand.
Right, so
that, right?
are you saying that the
institutions-
CDC is pushing back against Joe Rogan because it makes the red line go up?
No, I'm saying
Yeah, when
Pfizer.
you do memes like that, the whole conversation is just memes and
I'm not
nothing
trying to-
substantial to say.
I'm not trying to meme. I'm trying to say that.
No, I'm talking about when he started this. Now you have to fight him back on meme territory, and that's a waste of all of our time. Because of how he argues.
Seriously.
This is what he does.
I'll answer seriously, right? I understand that Pfizer has its own incentives, right? They have their own objective to make money. They want their red line to go on, right? The reason I trust Pfizer over the Joe Rogan podcast is because our institutions side with Pfizer, right? Our experts side with Pfizer, right? And
our institutions are bought by Pfizer. They are
yeah, there we go. Right now, you're just being conspiratorial.
How is that conspiratorial?
Whether all the institutions of man, the thousands of regulatory boards across the world that have approved these vaccines are all on this fucking inner circle, devious thing, and nobody in the world is actually acting in the interest that vaccines are good for the fucking population. Of course, they're good for the population. That's why we have them. That's why we commission them to be built. That's why governments spend money on them.
Has Pfizer?
And they're also being paid for whether people get
Has
them or not.
Pfizer ever settled something because they misrepresented data? Has that ever happened, Sneaky?
Yes, that was in 2012 or something, or 2010.
Okay, so this is why we have free speech. Because people like you are idiots, and you say, "Hey, everything that they say is gospel and is true."
No,
and we shouldn't have
already.
Basically said because it wasn't about Pfizer. He specifically spoke to the institutions.
Yes,
Pfizer doesn't make money.
You know why Pfizer got caught out in 2010 for that? Because the fucking institutions came down on them. For fuck's sake, Gambit.
After they approved and released it.
Yes, and then they went.
And you know who was the core of that? There was those career people that were either virologists, epidemiologists, and blah blah blah. They researched it and they said, "Hey, wait, I don't think something adds up." And then that formed, and then that more and more people started to look at it, and then now we have lawsuits. That's how those things happen.
If anything,
Pfizer doesn't need you to get the vaccine, right?
If anything, Gambit, you're making my argument stronger, right?
No, I'm
the
not.
fact that these institutions, yes, you are, and I'll explain why, right? My argument is essentially that institutions are good, right? We should trust institutions, at least somewhat, right? And the fact that you say, well, actually, there was this one time where institutions is wrong, if anything, that exception proves the rule rather than fucking completely obliterates it.
Nobody says that we shouldn't listen to our institutions. Nobody's made that claim.
No, but the things that are
not nobody. Roadman made that claim when he said all the institutions are bought by Pfizer.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I'm not
He
saying
didn't
all.
say we shouldn't listen to them though. He's saying that in reality they do the trials, they own the data for the trials. Only the reports are given out, not the raw data. Blah blah blah. He's not saying that means you shouldn't listen.
They
to
are.
them.
Joe Rogan and
that's not
Pfizer
true.
aren't.
Gambit,
Joe Rogan
that's
and
not true,
Pfizer aren't they're not the enemy. Pfizer doesn't need you to get the vaccine.
never said Joe Rogan
But I'm saying whenever you're saying that whenever you agreed to the Roadman's argument, you maybe shouldn't have got in on it. The idea that Pfizer made Joe Rogan the enemy. I'm saying Pfizer doesn't. But yes, he did. He said that they're Pfizer's pushing back on against Joe Rogan
because Pfizer is in bed with the mainstream media,
so
basically.
He did say that. But
So
basically,
Go ahead.
hold on. Yeah, my main point was Pfizer doesn't need you to get the vaccine. The government pays for it. They're not asking for individual people to you don't pay for the vaccine when you get it. So they're gonna keep selling it regardless of whether you get it or not. That's not really.
That's not true because
No,
the more vaccine, yeah, they are. But the more vaccines that people need, right? The more demand there's for vaccines, the more the government buys it, right?
Yes,
so even if you go get a free vaccine, Pfizer gets paid for that.
But I'm saying the reality is the fact that people aren't getting the vaccines and the fact that they're like the vaccines are like going bad and they have to produce more is actually in the interest of their bottom dollar. They produced enough vaccines for everyone in America to be vaccinated, but they actually we keep buying more of them because they like. I'm not saying it's in their interest for us for people not to be vaccinated, but I'm saying that they the only like it's
You said that earlier.
but it doesn't cross in their bottom dollar. The reason they want people to get the vaccine because they actually like it actually ends up being good. It actually is in the interest of the institution, and they want the publicity from saying that we're doing a good thing. But like Joe Rogan and Pfizer aren't like going back and forth one to one.
Bam, I agree with you, but we're talking. It's how you differentiate. Like we're talking about Pfizer, like Pfizer itself versus like the places where information about Pfizer is getting dispersed or information about the vaccine is getting dispersed. So we're talking about, hey, is it responsible for Spotify to keep up this show that is talking about the disease in this way? But how can you say that but keep up CNN, which has shows that are sponsored by Pfizer and also have like information that could be construed as like biased in a way.
I mean, I think there is I think it's objectively true that some of the things people come out with some of the things that people come out with like on the Joe Rogan podcast and on these like other fringe media things are probably true. But that doesn't. But just because those things and specific examples I can't even get into because I feel like most of the things, even if they're true, they're probably lacking major context. Or even if they are put in context, like Sneaky Debate Man said earlier, the average person doesn't have the ability to process it. Specifically dealing with like the myocarditis thing. Like the myocarditis thing was true, but that wasn't an argument not to get the vaccine. Because we figured out
And the way that you framed the myocarditis thing was also really important because people were saying it was true that like myocarditis was a symptom of the vaccine, but nobody was talking about the fact that you had a higher chance of getting myocarditis from getting COVID than you did from the vaccine. So it's all about the framing, right? Yeah. And I think that's where all of this goes back to.
That's not the whole conversation, though.
But this is why I say it, right?
The rest of the conversation is potentially depending on your demographic group, you could be more at risk of myocarditis if you've contracted the virus first, and then
can we not? I don't want to get into that. I don't want to get into that. None of us are.
Y'all don't want to talk about the shit that's actually going on.
We're not qualified.
You don't listen to the fucking show, so you don't know anything.
I just don't have anything good to say about it. And I don't think anybody else on this panel does either.
You don't want to talk about it because you don't fucking know.
The overarching point here.
If there was a biologist here, they would cook you.
Right. The overarching point. The overarching point of this is we've got on one hand the institutions of man, the CDC, these regulatory boards, like literally thousands of regulatory boards created in public interest, right? And like I understand these institutions are not perfect and they can be corrupt, they can be lobbied, blah, blah, blah. But the point is they are there, they exist to represent public interest, right? And on the other hand, you have Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, who will push things that make them profit, right? And they will push things that are controversial. They will push things that are fringe because it gets engagement, and that's what they make money off, right? And these two things are fundamentally against each other, right? One wants anything that can be pushed, anything that is fringe that will make money. One wants the public interest, which is the correct information. And I understand they're not perfect institutions, but like they're a damn sight better than the corporate interests of pushing fringe things that get engagement, right? So my solution to this is no, we should probably come down on the one that's pushing things for profit and support the one that is pushing things for the interest of the people.
Are they both for profit at the end of the day?
Well, of course, Spotify pushes Joe Rogan's stuff for profit, and they like
but I
allow
don't think,
Joe Rogan
the CDC. I guess the CDC is not for profit.
The CDC. I thought you were talking about Pfizer. My bad. Yeah, the CDC is.
That's what I mean. The institutions of man, like the regulatory boards and all this, right? They act in the public interest, or at least they're designed to act in the public interest, right? And in contrast, you can say that a company may act in the public interest, but they're fundamentally designed to make fucking money. right? That's their bottom line. That's their founding principle. They want to make money.
If y'all come on the open
it's all
panel
about making
after
money
this,
so you can have, but not for profit. It's to have more.
if y'all come on the
resources to do more
open panel
shit.
after this, Sneaky Debate Man is going to be arguing that all our institutions have been infiltrated and they don't have Americans' best interests at heart. So just stick around, y'all. Stick around to the
I
open
understand. I've already said to you, Gambit, and I said this like 3 fucking times, right? I understand these institutions aren't perfect, right? But fundamentally, they are designed.
No. I'm not. So I've not made the claim that they are perfect or not. I'm just saying that in the open panel tonight, if you stay on, you're going to be arguing with somebody.
Yes,
that
I'm
all
going
of
to be
these
critical.
institutions are
I'm going to be
corrupt and they're
critical of
bad.
these
You shouldn't trust
institutions
them.
because I know they're not
Yubi.
perfect. Yeah, I agree. Yes, correct.
Yeah, so I've just been listening because, like I said at the start, I'm kind of torn about this, but I think I'm way less torn about it now. Gambit, do you think that, like, because you keep saying that if he wants to have people on his show, he should be able to have them on, yada yada yada, right? Is there like a limit to that for you? Like, so what if he brought somebody on that was like pushing the idea that the vaccines had like fucking nanobots in them that were gonna, wipe out your memories or some shit? Like, do you think he should be able to have that person on if he wasn't like pushing back against them?
Okay, so when Joe Rogan doesn't agree with somebody, he pushes back on his show. So I think Joe Rogan platforms these things in a way that I'm very, very comfortable with, and I don't have a problem with the way that he goes about it in any way.
Okay,
I think. Wait,
hold on. So it's not.
But hold on. I want to be more clear to answer your question. If there was a podcast on Spotify where somebody was saying the 5G caused COVID, all this other dumb shit, I wouldn't care at all. I wouldn't care.
You wouldn't care, even if they're getting like millions of viewers and shit.
I wouldn't care at all. Yes, I wouldn't care at all. Anyway, I think that
but don't you think that, like,
Gambit, it's not about not caring. Why are you saying you don't care? It's just that you value the benefits
I'm gonna
more.
finish. I think if somebody is pushing some idea like the fucking vaccine has nanobots in it, and there's no one to fight against that argument, I think we're in a really bad state. And the people who understand that the vaccine doesn't have nanobots in it should step up to the plate and create content that shows that it doesn't. I think
really hard to argue
these
a
are just like
negative.
these are
I'm not gonna
conspiracy
be
theories,
facetious
right?
about
So
almost
hold on,
what
and if
you give to
people with big platforms are pushing just straight up conspiracy theories, and they have people in their audience who maybe they've followed them for a long time and trust them, and then now suddenly this person you've been following and trusting for a long time is telling you that there are nanobots in this vaccine that they're going to kill you or whatever the fuck. A lot of these people are going to trust this person, right? Whether or not there's any data to back it up. Because a lot of times the data that's available is actually biased because these institutions have an incentive to get you to put nanobots in yourself.
Wait, do
right? So given that we know that like if you don't get vaccinated, you're like 14 times more likely to die from COVID, right? Like people are actually dying over this shit. I don't agree that there's just no line, right? That if someone wants to go out there and have a big platform and saying crazy shit, we should just kind of say, oh, it's free speech, argue against them, on your platform or whatever the fuck, right? I think there is a line, and I think Joe Rogan's probably crossed it. I don't think we should be relying on his ability to push back against people on something he has no expertise in. There's no fucking idea what he's talking about. Right, so something like virology, like he's not a virologist, right? So if somebody comes on and makes crazy claims about this shit, he's not going to be able to push back effectively.
I need to hear.
Right?
I need to hear more about mass
Hold on,
formation.
I want to respond to this because it was directed towards me. Sneaky, if you can take 10 seconds to let other people talk. But so Doobie, I didn't want to answer your hypothetical at first because it gives this illusion. You're under the illusion that I haven't thought through this, and you think you can present me a hypothetical that's going to change my opinion. I've thought through free speech extensively. I understand that there are going to be potentially harmful things that come out of being an advocate for free speech. That doesn't mean that I'm going to change my position and say we shouldn't have free speech. So I don't care what scenario you concoct. It's not going to change how I feel about this in any way.
I don't think that's true. Wait, so I do think it's true that you thought through free speech, right? I didn't come speak to you assuming that you haven't thought this through. But I don't. I think that maybe you're being a little hyperbolic because I think we could probably present you with some hypothetical where you'd be okay with restricting free speech, i.e., if we knew about like a magic word somebody could say that will lead to some random person near them murdering somebody, right? You'd probably say, hey, we should restrict people's ability to say the magic word.
Hold on, what?
Yeah.
If there was a magic word that murdered somebody, then I would consider that physical violence. And most people who support free speech don't support like direct violence or cause of direct violence. So
no, you're misunderstanding. So if there was a magic word somebody could say that would cause some random person hearing it to kill somebody, right? You would probably say we should restrict the ability to say that magic word. Right, because they're not killing this person directly, but them saying the word is going to lead to somebody else doing something to hurt somebody.
If you make statements that cause direct violence, nobody stands for that. This doesn't argue against anything.
So what if? Okay, but that's not like direct violence that you're doing, right? Someone else doing direct violence as a result of what you said. And I don't see, given that we know that so many people are who have been infected are being infected by unvaccinated people. People who are dying because they're unvaccinated and they're getting COVID much more severely. Like, I don't think it's that far off, right? From somebody coming onto your platform, saying a bunch of misinformation, pushing conspiracy theories, right? And I'm not saying specifically Joe Rogan. I'm saying somebody else at like a large platform where this was happening with zero pushback ever, right? I don't think that's that far off from like one of their listeners not getting the vaccine and as a result killing somebody because they got COVID when they wouldn't have, or they got a more severe case of COVID that was more infectious.
So you think what Joe Rogan has done is tantamount to someone saying a magic word that kills someone?
Yeah.
I think I don't think it's that far off. I don't think it's that far off.
I think he's a sorcerer. I think it's entirely analogous to 100%, 1000%. I don't know. The like bottom line is like who do we agree are trusted sources and are not trusted sources, and then who do we agree are like providing what I would hope that Gambit is looking for is like sort of ethical pushback. But I just have to go back to sneaky debate. Oh shit, sorry. I got a grifter in my chat and my alerts are really loud. If there are any grifters in PrimeCayes chat, grift this guy 5 right now. Yeah, earlier it was like, oh, you're a grifter, this is a person's a grifter. We're all grifters. It's why we're on the platform. If there are sub-grifters, we want to hear from them. But more so to the point earlier, Sneaky Debate Man was trying to establish what I think was like really important is like, what is the goal of these institutions? And somebody said like the institution's a man, and I almost left the podcast. But like, I think largely we have to accept Joe Rogan is a content creator, and his goal is to reach the largest audience possible, then to sell ads, then to sell out to Spotify. And like, that's the whole fucking point, right? Now, again,
I disagree with that characterization.
No, you can't. It's objectively true that he is an
that's
entertainer.
where you're
He is
losing
not
the
a
plot,
scientist.
Gambit.
Can't-
No,
that's where you're
If he-
losing the plot, dude.
I will accept that Joe Rogan is not this once he decides to use his money to go to an institution to study viruses and virology. And until he does, you are a content creator. That's your job. That's my job. Or maybe during the day you do drywall. But my point is you are qualified to do certain things, right? And I don't think he's qualified to have these positions that he has. I don't think he has done the research he literally can't do research. He can't do clinical trials. So ought we not trust the people who are doing the research? It's like, why are we even still talking about this? It's so insane to me.
Okay, he addressed me. Can I respond?
I didn't address you in particular. I know you're going, you're vibing. Did I?
You literally did.
What did I say to you?
No, I'm pretty sure you just responded to him speaking.
Yeah.
I don't think he was coming at you.
No, okay. You said something directly to me. I can't remember what it was right now. But I don't think there's anything to indicate that Joe Rogan is this guy that is just trying to reach some larger amount of listeners. Joe Rogan's podcast started because he said, hey, I'm just going to create 3-hour conversations. And a lot of people didn't flock to it. If he wanted to be the person who just appeals, he would have did what CNN does, where they put, or like we're doing here, where we put like 9 people in boxes and then we talk for 15 minutes, yell at each other, and then go about our business. No, he said, hey, I want to have actual conversations and engage with people. That just so happened to catch on. That doesn't mean that his goal is to just morph himself to get as many views as possible. I completely reject that characterization. There's nothing.
So are you saying that if 7 people watched the Joe Rogan podcast, that he would keep making podcasts at the volume and
that's what he did when it started. That's what it did when he
But
started.
what was the goal of that podcast? Do you think the goal was just to talk to his 7 friends? Do you think he had no
Yes.
other aspirations?
Yes,
No. Why?
it really
Wait.
was.
I think that's what he does say.
Why
Hey,
run
Andre,
commercials?
that's what he
Why run?
says.
Why run commercials? Why run ads?
Oh, this started like 15 years ago, bro. Like this is not just like happening right now. He started it and it grew and it grew and it grew and it
I
grew.
used to love it. We're probably not going to bond rope, man, but I used to be a huge fan and I liked the podcast in its inception. I thought it was tight. But I think that the goal has always kind of been to grow the thing and monetize the thing and like use those resources for cool cars, as he says, to have cool shit. Sorry.
They're not.
When you say this,
I want to talk to half-baked takes. You and me, buddy. I've been arguing with Gambit all night. What do you got? Let's chat.
No, you're good. I just don't know if you're gonna get through to them on that argument because, and you should know this because you said you watched a lot of Joe Rogan. From my understanding, he says that he does this because he just wants to talk to people and have conversations.
Yeah.
And that's like what he has stated on this publicly. So I don't think going at it.
And it's hard for me to say that he's like being disingenuous, like he's lying and that's not what he actually wants. But I do think,
That's what you just said.
Hold on, I love your jacket. I think it would be silly for me to not assume that there's not more to it. He's running ads. He's like, I think he wants more than, if it were just to just chat, kill the ads. Nobody wants to hear about Alpha Brain for the millionth fucking time, right? Like if that's what it's for.
Totally agree with you, 100%. But the problem is that again. I don't think anybody is expecting Joe Rogan, or at least I hope most people aren't expecting to get their information from Joe Rogan. And the problem is Gambit. I don't know why he's not saying this.
Don't say his name.
Well, because y'all
don't say Gambit
isn't saying that. Joe Rogan isn't the one making all these statements. It's typically his guests that are making these statements, right?
I agree with you.
You're regurgitating.
But you never nailed that point down, and that's where you guys are.
They just don't listen because they're ideologically entrenched in their positions, and they don't accept any other position.
When you personally attack them, don't you think they're probably going to be a little harsh with you?
No, I don't care about.
Dude. Come on, man. You know they're going to be. You know they're not going to give you good faith arguments when you're not being good faith. You're not being good faith.
Why am I not being good faith? Because I'm pointing out exactly what they're doing.
No. When you're calling people dumb and stupid, and honestly, your points are hyper long-winded, and I'm trying to hang on to as much of them as I can.
My points are hyper long-winded. Do you want to go count who's talked more out of me, you, and Sneaky? Both of y'all have talked way more.
That's cute. I've been playing Pokemon for like hours, but my point is largely that. No, my point, and I kind of want to engage with what Halfbaked was saying earlier about the responsibility or how large of a percentage of the audience is absorbing this as like factual information, and I think it's probably larger than you're giving credence to, right? Like how many listeners Halfbaked does Joe Rogan have? Go ahead, you disagree?
I understand what you're saying, and yes, he has a massive audience, but I don't think it's Joe Rogan's responsibility for who listens to his podcast if they misinterpret or take bad information and take it as fact.
If you were Joe Rogan, no, I think we're having a good back and forth here. I'm vibing with this. If you were Joe Rogan, would you personally feel any responsibility to like perhaps more thoroughly vet your guests or the information, or do you think because free speech is important and I agree with you on this, right? But what sort of like
I absolutely would. Yes, I absolutely, and I think even Joe Rogan, because today looking into this shit a little bit, I didn't really even hear about this that much. I saw he made a video where he's like, "Hey, I'm gonna start, taking active measures to improve upon this going forward." So I think he values it in the same way that you do, where he knows that he has a massive audience, so he should do some things. But I just don't know if. Because at the end of the day, we're talking about should Spotify take him off, right?
No, yeah. And my position at the beginning of that was Spotify should just probably be consistent and leave smaller, because it sounds like they're having scrutiny issues. They're harsh on one podcast and not the other. And I did not watch the podcast and I did not read the article, and I have come in here very uneducated. Also, I'm not a virologist, but like, yeah, I mean, I think Spotify should be consistent. But to Sneaky Debate Man's point, like, is it in their best interest? No, I think they should probably, if they're not going to be consistent, then they should let people make whatever fucking podcast they can and let stonks go up. But I do think that there's some. Yeah, we largely agree.
That's what I
But I do think there's a huge risk in this with having vetted sources like the CDC having to contend with it. And people on this panel have said that's not a problem, but it really is. It really is.
So
yeah, I'm not saying it's not a problem.
So to push back against the idea, I don't think Spotify might be being inconsistent based on the metric that you put forth, but I don't think Spotify is actually being consistent. I think if you're small enough, right, you don't make them enough money that you're worth the risk, they get rid of you, right? It's called cost benefit analysis is what they're doing, right? And the people who don't bring in enough money, right, to be worth the crap that they're spouting on their platform, they get rid of them. And the people who do bring in enough money, like Joe Rogan, they keep them. I think it's extremely consistent, right?
I think
Is
there's
there
a
any
better
data
middle
to
ground
support
on
that
that.
they kick off people that talk about COVID that are small? Is there any data to support the claim you just made?
The claim that I just made.
I'm sure,
wait,
but
hold
we
on.
wouldn't
Wasn't
hear
the
about
whole
it 'cause they're
premise that
fucking
there was
small.
people? Wasn't there?
They're small.
Wasn't
We're
that
not
they
gonna
kicked
hear
out
about
smaller?
I'm sure there
You
have
said
been plenty.
Spotify
Hold
will
on.
look at small content creators
Wasn't
and
this-
say they're not worth the risk and they'll kick them off. Is there anything to support that claim?
Wait, hold on. Wasn't that the premise of the topic that they were being scrutinized because
I don't know.
they were being what was it?
I don't think that was
What's
a
the
part
word?
of the topic.
It wasn't the whole topic that they were being hypocritical because there were some people who were being deplatformed, but Joe Rogan
No.
wasn't.
That's not in
then-
the question that we received.
All
That's
right,
not.
hold on. I
Yeah,
swear.
there
this is what we don't
absolutely
know.
have been small creators who have been removed from the platform due to algorithms. I can't even believe you'd sit here and say that. Why would you say that there aren't small creators getting held to the same standard?
Like that's sorry. This
Hold-
is precisely
you're
my
talking
point
to
since
me?
the beginning, right? That the
Wait, hold
problem-
on. The company
Yes,
has been
Gambit.
relentlessly criticized for its apparent double standard treatment when it comes to
They
COVID
are
misinformation.
taking small creators off. They are 100 on
And that
some
was the
level.
question.
We just don't hear about it because they're small creators.
But
You
this
think
is-
that they're
this is
taking off
precisely my
small
original point.
creators that are saying controversial things about COVID?
Yes.
That's your claim,
Yes,
right?
there are some. Yeah, there are some small. Yeah.
Yes, that's what they're under criticism for, and this was.
So it seems like they
specifically-
might not be taking people off, but they're adding content advisories to people
I
who
think
spread misinformation
I
about
think it's
COVID-19. But they
fucked
might
up
be
that
taking
they-
people off too.
Yeah, I think it's fucked up that they're taking small creators off for spreading misinformation.
Can you send us something to
I
substantiate
think they
that?
should be taken off.
No,
But
I'm
I think
just
if
using
they're
my
at the
common
level, like,
I'm not
somebody-
making like an art. I'm not saying that this is
the
like
conversation,
right
so
or
there's no
wrong.
data to support it. Okay, cool.
Gibby, you
I
wanna
know
say
I'm
something?
not sure.
Wait, hold on.
I think they
Come on,
absolutely.
am I being crazy? Am I
Yeah,
being
I
think
crazy to not
specifically-
have specific data on this?
This was my
You're not being
specific.
crazy.
This isn't even like the
But I
crux
hope
of my
it's true
argument.
that they
right?
are being taken
Fact.
off.
And you
Hold
have
on,
no
hold
data
on.
to support
Wait.
it. It's
Because this, wait, hold on.
absolutely
This isn't even the crux of my argument, Gambit. You're just not engaging, right? Because it does.
I'm talking
Wait,
about
maybe
big
wait. Because the whole premise of our fucking topic is that they're being hypocritical in the way that they address some people. Now, maybe they're not kicking small creators off. Maybe it's that they're putting content warnings on smaller creators, but not on Joe Rogan. Maybe but in some way they're treating Joe Rogan differently
read
than
Prime's question?
other
It says
people,
none of
right?
this.
And it's wait, what? Go ahead.
Prime, can you hold on? Let's appeal to Prime. Prime, the question that you sent all of us, that's in the fucking group DM that we're in, does it
I
make
just read
any
it
of
to
these
you,
claims
dog.
that Spotify is kicking off small?
Wait,
creators?
hold on. You're still not engaging,
There are
Gambit.
there are two discussions going on here, Gambit, and Dolphin is trying to ask you to
He's saying
engage.
that we were specifically given this as a part of the topic. He's
hold on.
appealed to
Wait,
the
Part
topic.
of the topic.
multiple
Wait,
times.
let me read this to you because you failed to listen as I talked. You wait to respond, right? I said, right, the topic says the company has been relentlessly criticized for its apparent double standard treatment when it comes to COVID-19 misinformation. And the premise of the topic was that they're being hypocritical and that they're treating the Joe Rogan podcast differently than other people. Probably because he's he's the biggest podcast on the planet, right?
Prime, is that what you meant?
So,
Who gives a shit? Just engage with it.
well,
Prime, is that what you meant?
okay, so I'll answer this. One thing. Joe Rogan apparently gave $1. He says tell that short Shaq-looking guy to stop trying to disrespect the other guests. I'm not sure which one of you guys look like Shaq, but whatever. Okay. Anyway, to your point, GSU Gambit. So I watched a video that talked about. I sent you guys that video. That talked about how some episodes have been taken off, right? But Joe Rogan's episodes, oh yeah, talk about COVID, but Joe Rogan's episodes are still up. And so that's why that episode I was talking about.
There you go, Gambit.
Yeah, so specifically, right, this is my original point, right? It is not determined by the validity of the information, but rather the revenue generated by that content being on the platform, right? So the company does not care about what the content is. They just care about red line go up. Right? It's my original point, right? And to further go into this, the overarching point is the profit motive corrupts our ability to engage with media, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's move on. Yeah, I do have